Welcome to the special council meeting of Thursday, March 26, 2025 at 4:40 p.m. in council chambers and via Zoom. We acknowledge that the town of Kirkland Lake is located on the traditional territory of Algonquin peoples, including Beaver House First Nation and unceded territory of other Indigenous peoples. We recognize the presence of the Algonquin, Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Cree, and Métis people in our community since time immemorial and honor their stewardship and care of these lands. We hereby affirm our continued commitment and responsibility to reconciliation. Item number 1 calls to order in a moment of silence. Item number 2, approval of the agenda. Councillor Owen, seconded by Councillor Shava.
Be it resolved that the agenda for the special meeting of council held on Thursday, March 6, 2025 be approved as circulated, and finally that section 32A2 of the town of Kirkland's procedural bylaw 15075 as amended be suspended to permit ad hoc questions and clarification from council to administration in relation to all items noted in section 4 in relation to the 2025 budget presentations.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 3, any declaration of pecuniary interest? None noted. I will now ask Finance Chair, Councillor Jennifer Fraser, to take my seat. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll be starting at 4.1, the 2025 budget presentation. Capital. Treasurer Lloyd Crawford.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'm just going to take 1 minute after hearing some of the media and some of the discussions out in town about our presentation on Tuesday. We were talking about 10.3% increase in the budget. I just wanted to clarify that a 10.3% increase in the budget doesn't necessarily correlate with a 10.3% increase in the residential tax rate. It seemed to be drawing a direct parallel in the media, and that's my fault for not being very specific about that. Typically, the residential rate's a tiny bit higher than the change in the budget. So if you had 10.3 change in the budget, you might get 11 point something low in the residential rate. I can bring something back later to try and summarize how that happens, why it happens in that particular format. But the short reason is essentially 4 buckets that we draw taxes off of. Residential, industrial, 2 types of industrial, and commercial. And residential has 2 types as well, multi-use residential. They all have different ratios. You'll see that in the bylaws if you pay close attention to them. And those ratios and the assessment come together to calculate the final tax rate. So anyways, I don't have a good presentation. I don't have a good explanation tonight, other than I just want to draw that to everybody's attention that they are not a direct correlation. 10.3 on the budget doesn't mean exactly 10.3 on the residential tax rate. Just wanted to clarify that before we get started tonight. Capital budget. So you'll see that in your folders 3. So you'll see there's an awful lot going on this year, as there has been for the 3 years that I've been here. This is a fairly typical type of list. Lots of replacements. We're still using our levels. If I take a minute, if you don't mind, go to the second page. We're at the bottom where it says the level. You'll see a short summary of what those levels really mean. And I just I just want to emphasize that the directors and everybody who puts these things on this list, they're looking carefully at those levels when they put them in the budget. You know, if they say high priority, that means the equipment's end of life, it's, you know, time to replace it based on a whole bunch of factors, not just maintenance costs, but, you know, functionality, stuff like that. 4 typically means it's already broken or it's unsafe. So if it's a 4 on there, it means we're basically going to be forced to do the work. So as you can see, almost everything is a 3 or 4. We've made a very strong effort to keep things off of the capital list that are not really critical at this point in time. So just to let you know that that process has happened. There's been a couple of iterations of that process before it even gets to you. I'd be happy to take questions, but I think what you'll find is some of these things, I will ask a director to come up and speak to them specifically if their questions are very specific.
Before we get started, sorry. You'll see that we had sent out a draft of the process or protocol, and one of the things that I wanna let the group know is that we'll be going through what I'm gonna decide is as a lottery of who will be going in what order. So I did a random spin thing on the app to determine what order questions will be taken. So this year, the process will be the mayor, Pat Kiley, Casey Owens, Dolly Dykens, Rick Owen, and Lad Shaba, just so that if everybody has questions, that's the order that I'll be taking the questions in. Okay, just to keep things moving along. 4.2, the 2025 budget departmental divisional presentations. We'll be starting with A, the administration, office of the CAO, clerk's office, and council.
We're still.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, we'll go back to 4.1. Does anyone have questions based on the points that Lloyd's discussed?
Yes,
Vlad?
okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Can you go through what you just said a while ago about 11.3? Not actual municipal tax levy, but it's something else that in the case of, can you share with us what the actual might be?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. So when we discussed on Tuesday evening, the change in the budget, the increase in the budget, the actual raw plain math is there's a 10.3% increase in the budget put in front of council. When we go back and do the calculations, and it's quite a complicated calculation, so that's why you don't hear me winging it like I often do sitting here. It takes into account the 5 or 6 buckets, you know, the 2 or 3 residential rates, 2 or 3 industrial groups, the commercial groups, and then it puts a ratio on them, a multiplier, and you get to this big pool, and then they divide it by what we ask for. And that comes up with the residential rate. So the short answer is 10.3 isn't an exact number when it comes to the change in the residential tax rate. Once you go through the process, the residential tax rate tends to be a little bit higher than the change in the budget. So in this case, 10.3 might be 11.3. And again, that's not a hard number. It's just me pointing out that there's a difference in the residential tax rate. Some of the other tax rates might actually go down. It's kind of an odd calculation. We put into place some different assessment groupings in the past, previous councils. We have a different assessment grouping out towards Nettie Lake, and we have 2 different types of assessment going on with the industrial groupings. We have a low rate and a high rate, and because of that, they tend to be capped, which is why, again, I can't say 10.3 here, it's exactly 10.3 there. I heard some of the quotes out there in some of the discussion, and I just wanted to be very clear that they're not perfectly lined up. They're very close, They're not exactly the same. If you need more than that, I'll have to come up with something a little more formal.
Well, yes, I know that's not that process for us tonight. Tonight is to listen to all the presentation, but going forward, I mean, if we really want to know what to work on, to bring down to what, we need to know where our starting point is firmly. So if it's whatever that number is, then some of us can go home and look at all of this after tonight and then for crunch our numbers and say, well, can we not take this out, take that out to come down to somewhere? But now I have no idea. I thought we're starting from 10.3, and then maybe by the end of all this process, between next meeting, we'll be down to maybe 10.1. I don't know. But now you're saying it's not 10.3, so I'm a little bit confused as to what is our starting point to start working downwards or maybe working upwards, as the case might be. Thank you.
So I'll answer that first. Some of this is a philosophy in budgeting, we'll call it. Our goal here is to talk about the numbers we're actually spending, the effect on the residential, commercial, industrial tax rates is a byproduct of the decisions we're making here tonight. If we're going to approach backwards by saying we want this residential tax rate, then we're gonna struggle. Because it's a backwards type of thinking, saying we want this rate and you go spend the money whatever way you have to or find the savings. Without really considering the changes in the numbers. So in the past, as we had smaller total taxes, those two numbers were so close, we could almost use them interchangeably in these meetings, but they're starting to separate a little bit. I have a whole bunch of discussion about this, which really kind of is quite complicated, and I haven't got around to preparing a proper report. It's only about a 1% change right now. And I guess my final comment on this is don't let the residential tax rate be the only consideration when we're talking about where the money's being spent. If you think we need to save money in a certain area or you want to change the way we're spending money, then let's have that discussion. And then, we will come back with a proper residential tax rate as we get further along in the process. It takes days from the time that we get a number, maybe two, we'll say, to the time where we'd say that's the residential tax rate associated with it. So we don't do it at the first stage, never have. It's just, yeah, sorry. I know I'm gumming things up a little bit here, but it just, after listening to the newspapers talking, they're not exactly the same. Sorry.
Don't ever apologize for clarifying for us, please. Any other questions? Councilor Owens?
Thank you. I was going through this, I think it's not a gravy-filled capital budget. There's not a lot of wiggle room from what I can see. Not a lot of stuff comes off on levy. So this will not be the biggest burden on ratepayers this year. Do have one quick question concerning the T54 large snow blower auger. Is this for the new one we purchased or the refurbished one that we did a few years back? Because I do believe we had 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we sent our main blower away to get refurbished.
Councilor
I
Owens,
think it
can you
was-
please refer, what's the reference? It's just for,
20, oh yeah, I saw the number. Okay, yeah, 2025, 27.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is, I believe, the same snow blower. It's a different part. One, I believe, was the motor, if I'm not mistaken. The big repair that came in partway through the year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
when
it's the motor on the, not the actual auger itself.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, no, the heavy duty augers that we're talking about, these are augers that are modified for more aggressive work. They have a different coating on them. Steel. And basically the one that we're using now is at the end of its life. So the next one, we have to, we prefer to use heavy duty augers because of the ice and the chunks. without a heavy duty auger, you're more susceptible to a lot of damage to the augers. So this is common practice for using them in a municipal application like this. It's less needed, for example, at the airport. Airport does not need heavy duty augers, but we will consider that at a future date because we might want to use it in town as well.
Any other questions? Councilor Jenkins?
Through, finance chair to the treasurer. I agree with, Councillor Owens, there's not a lot of wiggle room, it's pretty, yeah, mostly what we need. Mine is a question of, I guess, education. So we have, for instance, on the second page at the top, that it's earmarked as debt, 132,830, it's not part of the tax levy, but how does that impact the overall, like, because we're paying it out, so how does that impact?
Through you, Madam Chair. It would end up in the following year's budgets. Anytime you use debt, those debt payments become part of the next year and the year, depending on how long you take out a loan. It ends up being an expenditure in the following years. So next year you'll see, whatever it is, 1/5 or 1/10 of the loan being in the budget as a loan payment. You'll see in the actual operating budget, several departments have a loan and interest line. That's where it'll end up in the future.
Follow up, please, yeah. Do we know what the terms will be? Will this be over 2 years or 3 years or 5 years? Because that does impact our budget significantly.
Through you, Madam Chair. At this point, no, it won't be 2 or 3 years. It's a vehicle, so my guess is it's at least 5. If it's heavy equipment, we tend to go to 10. If it's a vehicle, we tend to go to 5. But it moves around depending on what we're looking at. The expected life. Heavier vehicles, we can loan basically for a longer period of time.
Can I just make one comment?
Yes.
My earlier association with TPR, every time they wanted to take the resident somewhere, the van was broken and they weren't able to get it fixed, whatever, so I'm supportive of this.
Yeah, through Madam Chair, I think you'll see when the director gets up here, she has some discussion around that and the benefits of going that direction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 2025-12, the back truck pump rebuild. Now, we have, according to the 10-year fleet management plan, we had a back truck to be purchased in 2027. So is this just meant to get us to 2027?
Through you, Madam Chair. Trouble with this chair. For the back truck pump rebuild, it's because without a pump on the shelf, there's a risk that if it breaks down, that the truck becomes unavailable for a long period of time. So this is just one of those key components that we really need on the shelf so that the vehicle remains functional throughout the year. The back truck may be scheduled to be replaced in 2027, but again, we'll need an assessment at that time to see if we can push that back a little further. Well, we'll be looking at that a little closer to 2027.
Thank you. Follow-up? So just separate, not follow-up, but so the item 25-01 and 25-03, the rescue truck and the SUV, according to the 10-year fleet management from 2023, they were supposed to be done in 2024. So can we have a refresher as to what occurred, why they didn't happen this year, the previous year? Good question.
Good. Madam Chair, I'm speechless. The rescue truck, I don't remember it being on the previous year. The SUV, I think it's a different one. We had planning and we had public works in 2024. This one is for the enforcement officer. So even though they're
The
We'll bring up
directors
the
are-
director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't see me, I'm behind.
You're welcome to interrupt.
Through you, Madam Chair, we made do in 2024. As most of you remember, I inherited the tabled budget when I took my role last year. And we made some minor repairs to the by law enforcement vehicle. And we are just at a escalation of commitment on the vehicle due to health and safety reasons. There's some inoperable items on the vehicle now that are just going to be too costly for the vehicle.
Thank you for that. I do appreciate the explanation why it wasn't done last year. So we appreciate when things are pushed to, maybe not to the maximum, but to pushed anyway. And then the other item was the rescue truck. And that also was meant to be previous year.
Good evening, Madam Chair, through you. The last year with the budgetary restraints, we were able to make do with the vehicle currently. Unfortunately, the white pickup truck of 2010, it's finally decided that it doesn't want to operate as a frontline vehicle anymore, so it becomes more unreliable. So we're now use that for response. So that's what's making why we need the purchase of the rescue truck this year.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, you have
Nope, that's everybody on the Capitol. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Councillor Owen.
Yeah, item 2025-34, $8,000 for a lawnmower for TPR. I'm wondering if we already own lawnmowers. Why we can't, why we're operating in such silos that TPR has to have their own lawnmower. Why couldn't we just schedule it so that we could save $8,000 just by using some of the lawnmowers we already own?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm not sure we are operating in silos truly. There is shared equipment. It may fall under a certain department in the budget, basically as its home base. So that lawnmower may never leave TPR. I don't know how much work it actually gets at TPR, but I know that the lawnmower, public works, cemetery, parks, it's not uncommon for them to be moving equipment around. So it has a home in the budget in TPR. I couldn't say if it's 100% for TPR. Practically speaking, moving that equipment around when you need it, there's a cost to that as well. I can't answer the particular details of the operating side. And I think, it's a fair question that we could probably answer. I don't know if we can do it tonight or a little bit later.
Follow up on that one.
Yep.
How many lawnmowers do we own?
I'm sure I don't know off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
no, I mean, it's like we've said that this is a very tight budget and there's very little that can be cut. And I'm just looking for minimum impact with savings.
Through you, Madam Chair, I understand the desire. It's not a new lawnmower, it's a replacement lawnmower. So we're not increasing our bucket of equipment and stuff in that. But again, we can kind of make sure that they've considered that
Yeah,
in
I mean,
their work.
just, and I have a question on a different.
Yeah. Do you want to finish this? Are you finishing this one or?
Sorry. Yeah, just answer to that. Just as a point of interest. So TPR did have a lawnmower to be replaced in 2026, according to the 10-year fleet management plan. So I'm assuming that something's happened to trigger a year early. Yeah, that's what I'm assuming, because it was on the plan.
Can I ask the long-term care to come up and speak to the long one? Thank you.
Through you. So as Mayor White has indicated, our lawnmower was due to be replaced in 2026. I think about $1,500 worth of parts have been put into it and it is still non-functioning.
Yeah, Director here. So does that lawnmower only service TPR?
Correct.
Well, this is what I'm suggesting, that perhaps we have enough lawnmowers already that we don't need to replace that. We can save $8,000 just by better management of the equipment we already have.
It's.
Like-
We can put, do you wanna hold that question for deliberations?
Sure, but it's,
Market, we'll just market.
yeah, no, I'm just throwing that out as an idea. And it may be totally impractical because I know nothing about operations. Okay.
Do you have another? second
Yes, I
question?
do, but not to do with TPR.
You're good then.
For
No,
me,
I'm
or-
gonna let Rick finish his thoughts.
Okay. Back truck pump rebuild.
Is that a code?
Oh, sorry, it's 2025-12. There are companies that own and operate vacuum trucks in the area that we could contract if our back truck is down. Yes, it's more expensive than operating our back truck, but it may be cheaper than spending 17,000 on a pump rebuild so that we have an extra pump.
Steph? Do you wanna?
So, sorry,
Sir.
Madam Chair, again, I guess we'll fall off of this one. This is more a question for, I think, the deliberation stage.
Okay,
Question the choices. Stefan gave us a description of what the goal is with having the extra pump around. And I guess we'll come back with a discussion around your question.
I'm not sure what I can ask questions on. That's okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Jenkins? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm gonna pause for a sec. Counselor Shabby, you had your hand up first.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I have a question about the item 2025-07. 60,000 for tax levy. So I just don't understand, did that just go to level 4? Or is it incremental? Like how are these things, did it go level 1, 2, 3? But also I see level 4 here, which means it's very urgent, so.
Counselor Shabbat, 2025-07 is the ventilation ice plant compressor.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
She's asking how it gets to level 4.
Are you asking, what are you asking?
Yeah, how did it get to level 4 all of a sudden? So, okay, what's the process of, I don't understand, it's level 4, which means, you know,
So
level
if
4 here.
I could come back to what I said earlier.
Yeah,
What you see on here
Budget
does
requirement.
not include 1 and 2. So as they move through the various stages of life and
Yeah,
state that they're in, you won't see it until it shows up here in the budget
At
as a
level 4.
3 or level 4. So the asset management plan tries to capture that, you know, to give us a bit of a heads up of when it might show up on our radar. But when push comes to shove and it breaks down and ends up as a 4 on this list, it's just our estimate wasn't perfect. And like I said, there's no mechanism that we report which stage they're at to council. The asset management plan has enough detail to kind of give us an estimate of that, but it, you know, it's very much an estimate. And so when it hits here, it's, you know, it's not a case of, it's a total surprise to us. It's just, it hit the point where it's a 3 or a 4 and now we're putting it in front of you.
I can speak to that though.
Yes,
Madam
thank
Finance
you.
Chair. So for the ice plant ventilation, we did have an inspection in August of 2024. To which the TSSA representative told us there's gonna be new compliance with the B52 mechanical refrigeration code that will come into effect this year, so it is an essential project. Yeah.
thank you. Counselor Jenkins?
Thank you, Madam Finance Chair. This just for clarity or education. Number 9, so 2025-09. I noticed like for that pickup truck, I'm sure there's a good reason, we're estimating $91,584 for that vehicle, whereas, in 03, it, for an SUV, it's 35,000, so I'm just wondering why the need of, I'm sure, I know there's a good reason, but I just.
Through you, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
Councilor Dickens, the waterworks pickup truck in this case is a 3/4 ton pickup. We need the heavy duty pickup for the plows and for the type of work that it needs to accomplish. That's why there's an increase in price for a 3/4 ton.
Thank you.
That's not cool.
Oh, sorry, through you, Madam Chair. I forgot this item that I wanted to ask about, because I didn't fully understand it. And I did read the explanation.
What's the code, sir?
2025-23, landfill office and septic system. But it's only, the expenditure is only 15,264. And I don't see how you can put in a septic system for that price. Like, I'm just curious what that number is and how we got to it.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councilor Cohen. We had it priced. The septic system is estimated to be that price.
Really?
Yes. It's a smaller septic system, okay, to accommodate a smaller office. But, yeah, no, that item, last year, there was a capital item to change the office.
Yeah.
We quickly realized that the office was not suited for off-grid situations. And the manufacturer is kind enough to trade it in for a new model, which will be off-grid compatible and will have solar panels for security systems.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions to Mr. Crocker, our treasurer, on 0.4.1? I'd just like to say thank you so much for the report. It is a bit of a unsurprised sticker shock for those that have been attending meetings or reading the reports that have been available to the public. I know that there's a lot of interest until they see the headlines, and then we get comments, and budgets can be quite challenging, and we have to make some pretty tough decisions. Things don't work quickly either, so I would like to express that, you know, we do things with the best of intentions, and we hope that, you know, things will run smoothly, but we're here when we need to make changes, as Mr. Crocker has said. We don't see the 1s and 2s, we see the 3s and 4s. And a lot of times we have to pivot, and departments have to pivot, and managers have to make decisions that may not be favorable, but makes the operations of a municipality go forward. So those are my comments as we move forward. On to 4.2, the 2025 budget department presentation. Can I have Alan Smith speak to departments administration?
Madam Chair, to council. I will hold the administration. Yeah. So when we look at the first slide, when we compare the 2024 to the 2025 budget, we see an overall increase of 4.1%. This consists of a 16% reduction in the CEO's office budget, a small increase in the clerk's division of 1.9%, and a very slight increase in mayor and council's budget of just 1.6%. Next, please. Then we're looking at some of the rationale for some of the changes. As for the corporation, we have increase in salary, the step, various step, the salary grids, also the cost of living increase. For non-union, it was a 2.5% increase. Like every year, we have an increase in our corporate insurance, and our budget reflects our portion of that. Again, as mentioned in the first point, we have also the increase in the salaries and benefits of the janitorial staff, which again, we incorporate our portion. This budget also maintains the strategic initiatives and workplace coordinator position in the full-time capacity, within the 16% reduction in the CO's office budget. Just as a refresher, this position is a revised version of the inactive performance coordinator position, and was revised and restated for a 2-year timeframe. This position is an integral part of the functioning of the CAO's office, while supporting the strategic initiatives of council. Again, this position is maintained within the 16% reduction or $68,000 reduction in the CO's office budget. There has been a slight increase in the membership fees for the CO's office, please. Utilities increased, and we have our portion of that increase. We have reduced contract service and consulting services in our budgets. We also have a reduction in revenues, and this is through mostly adjustments to gaming and also the hawker peddler licenses from the clerks division. It's that time of year coming up. Next year is the 2026 elections, so we have placed a $10,000 contribution to that reserve. We have reduced some of our monies in training and travel and education. Now, also, I do want to, next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Just also want to just mention that presently there has not been a salary adjustment made to the council remuneration. This year is the bargaining year for QP Local 26, and we will be bringing a report forward regarding this to revisit any increases in the salary retroactive back to January. Again, this will be waiting for once the new collective agreement has been ratified. However, that report will also mention the option of not being aligned with the QP 26, but rather be aligned with the recent benefits policy update. So some of the challenges of 2025. One of the big challenges is being that employer's choice as a corporation. And part of the struggle is to attract employees and to retain them. So we do undertake initiatives and we try to make that happen, but it's very difficult. Municipalities throughout Ontario are having difficulty attracting and keeping employees. This is specifically tough in the northern, in the north. Increasing costs, we still have supply chain issues. Interest rates are still relatively high. And of course, recently, we have all heard of the tariff issues, and that is a potential huge problem. We just don't know yet. We do not know how this will impact our resource sector. And if it negatively impacts the resource sector, being closely tied with the mining industry, could have a negative effect on our community and a negative effect on our municipality. But again, that is difficult to determine right now. Tariffs could also increase inflation, again, increase costs. Again, these are issues that are out of our control, but they do impact us. Infrastructure, I'll be working again closely with Public Works to keep our infrastructure moving forward, improvements. We're also looking at flood mitigation also. Growth, we need to grow as a municipality. We do have a new economic development and tourism strategy. I'll be working closely with the Department of Development and Enterprise Services to implement initiatives that will help office in this regard. Next slide, please.
Sorry. Apologies.
And of course, there's always budgetary situations. We'd like to do more, but we have to be confined to our budget. Time management, we have competing priorities, and sometimes it's just difficult to manage one's time. There's just many aspects that we have to do. So again, the competing priorities. Related to my first point of retention and attraction of staff is to keep on enhancing our corporate culture. And we have to overcome, sometimes it's very difficult to engage staff in those events and those programs. So that's going to be a focus of our office this year again, is to help increase that corporate culture. Community expectations is to manage the expectations of the community with the resources that we currently have. Clerk's office. As I mentioned, the clerk's office also has a similar challenge, is time management. The clerk's office is really prone to dealing with a lot of reactive operational needs, which does put pressure on the time within the corporate, the clerk's division. Also high change management pressure due to coordinated efforts on projects like other departments, divisions, does take considerable time with the clerk's division. The lack of a corporate training plan in place is definitely a hindrance to the corporation, and this is something we'll be addressing this year. Again, fiscal constraints, which materialize in delays in meeting the 2025 initiatives, that's also a concern. Next, please. Upcoming initiatives. Part of my role as CAO is to make sure that we implement the 2025 corporate business plan, that all initiatives and projects are complete, and if not, then the rationale behind that, and make sure we have the resources in place for the directors to undertake those projects and initiatives. Again, prioritizing core services is important. Also, I take a significant amount of my time is looking at how we can promote Corporate Link in front of our various provincial ministries. This is through delegations to ministries at various conferences. We recently finished Roma. Good Roads is upcoming. I'm just waiting for the application to open up and we can submit. And also AMO, as Councillor Owen mentioned in the last council meeting, it's important that we continue to have a presence in front of the various ministries. So that is important to continue with that work. I will continue to review non-core services and look for the appropriate adjustments to those services. Also, shortly, we'll be releasing a RFP to conduct a operational review of TPR. I mentioned what is important is to address our infrastructure needs. We do have some key capital projects upcoming, but we also have to continue to look for funding for various other projects. Just before the election, there was a health and safety fund that the provincial government had opened. However, they delayed that because of the election. So we're hoping that that gets reinstated and we can apply for that to help us with our infrastructure issues. It's important also that we continue to look at our policies, review and update our policies, and also develop new ones when appropriate. A draft library MOU has been complete. This will be presented to council. Give council's approval on that, then the library board. Next step, please. With respect to the initiatives with the strategic initiatives and workplace coordinator, we have recently completed a employee engagement survey, and that will be coming to council for review. As I mentioned, corporate culture is important, and so part of the work of the initiatives, the strategic initiatives coordinator is to look at what we're doing with employee wellness and recognition and to enhance that. Last year, I was hoping we could look at implementing a compressed work week to 4 days. I'm hopeful that this year, that one get this done this year and bring a report to council outlining what that could look like. Also, the coordinator will also provide strategic support to the Human Resources Division. That's ongoing. Please. And also, part of the role of this position is to continue to develop and implement initiatives for the CEO's office that does support council's programs. As I mentioned, it's also important that we develop a corporate training program, and our coordinator will be working with HR on this. She will continue to develop organizational KPI reporting, the year in review, and start drafting the 2026 corporate business plan at the end of this year. And also the position will continue to support the senior management team. With respect to the clerk's division, Ms. O'Clerc will be bringing forth a updated procedural bylaw and also a revised land acknowledgement statement, and this will be coming shortly to council. Also, yes, it's that time we start looking at the 2026 election. We need to get prepared now. There's a lot of work for the clerk's office. So that work starts, and it starts, well, now. Also, the clerk will be presenting the annual accessibility report in Q1. Part of the clerk's division also is responsible for corporate communications. So that will be initiative of public engagement and also the communication survey and various other communications initiatives. Also, to review the town website in Q1. And also, we'll be presenting amendments to the council remuneration policy and also looking at the indigent unclaimed burial program policy. Of interest here is also, there's a pilot program to create a civil ceremony program offering marriages town hall, that be looking at Q2. I should note that in the budget, we haven't accounted for any revenue for this because we just do not know what the uptake is going to be. So we could get some good uptake and get some revenue. So we just don't know yet. Okay. As I mentioned, the election preparation continues, and the clerk will present an election signed bylaw and advance voting bylaw and other associated bylaws. Also the multi-year accessibility plan in Q2, and also the delegation authority bylaw, and again the website will be reviewed, and that will be happening in Q2 into Q3, and also to assist with this official plan review. All the next please. Also with very deep significance is the corporate branding rollout in Q2, Q3 that will affect all divisions and all departments. Records and retention, again, a very important aspect of what the clerk division will be doing this year. Also, senior management, staff, and council. The clerk's office supports all three with legislative support, which is crucial to the operating of our municipality. Again, with the corporate communications, that is also looking at special projects, more digitalization of official corporate records, and also updating and creating divisional standard operating procedures. So that actually concludes my presentation, and welcome any questions. If council has any questions regarding the clerk's division or the clerk's budget, our municipal clerk will be happy to answer.
Councillor Shabba.
So, sorry, are we doing the lottery the way that you said at the top of the meeting?
No, my error, and the clerk corrected me, it'll be during deliberations.
Okay.
Jump the gun.
No worries. Thank you.
Organized, so I'll take them, the questions as hands are raised. So Councilor Shabba, do you want to start?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the CEO, thank you for your presentation. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't have any page to this. But under upcoming initiatives, I see conduct, keep well operational review. I thought that is ongoing. Is it? Yes, upcoming initiatives, I conduct TPR operational review. So we will be conducting that, or is that even ongoing? I don't know. Just it's upcoming.
To you, Madam Chair, to Councilor Shalin. I was informed by council that a request for proposal will be issued for consulting services to bring in the outside support to conduct a detailed review of operations for TPR.
Councilor Dykens?
Thank you, Madam Finance Chair, to CEO Smith. QB Local 26, which employees does that cover?
I believe that is community services
Okay, thank you.
and also public works.
Oh, public, okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Okay, so, I just want to note that, we are gonna change that position, which it was, temporary to a permanent, full-time, and we're going to still realize a decrease in wages, so that's interesting to note. You did note that contracted services has been decreased by 28,000. How do you project that? How do you project that decrease?
Well, actually, you might have meant to, actually, I can speak to the, in my office, I reduced consulting services by $30,000.
Yeah.
That was related to last year's strategic plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. So the presentation notes a reduction in revenues, but when we actually look at the attachment 1 operating budget, that's not reflected. It looks under revenues, that's section 1, page 4 of 15. The revenues projected are 30,000 for both 2024 and 2025. And then in the clerk's office, her revenues actually go up. Yeah, and then of course too, you did know when you were speaking that we haven't budgeted anything for the possible revenues of the marriage. So it was just, I just caution that our speaking notes should match. And then contracted services. And also there's an increase in the clerk's labor and related budget that I just have. I'm curious as to why that is increasing versus the admin. Yep.
Okay. Through you, Madam Finance Chair. So in terms of the question about, or the comment about the revenues, I can identify to council that the lottery licensing revenues were always estimated as very high. And during COVID, we've seen a reduction in lottery licensing, so I'm still seeing the trend of lottery licensing evening itself out. Now that we have more organizations that are gaming, the revenues will increase, but right now they are staying stagnant at a certain amount. I kept them, not high, but I kept them at pre-COVID rates, and now they're stabilizing. They're starting to stabilize. So there was a reduction in the revenue for that line, and there was an increase in marriage license uptake after COVID. So I adjusted there. And to answer your question about, I've also added to miscellaneous revenues because we have had a increase in freedom of information requests. So there's fees associated with that, which would generate revenue. And then going to the salary difference for this year, there was a job that was reevaluated in 2020, there was a job description that was updated in 2023. It was not reevaluated until January of 2025 because we were waiting for the performance management policy to pass and a job evaluation working group to be established. So there is a retroactive January 1st, 2024 adjustment that it reflects in this budget.
Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Shabbat?
Thank you very much. While we're on that topic, to you, to the clerk, now I see on that page 4 of 15 of attachment number 1. Just curiosity, how do you go from $1,200 in other revenue to $3,000? Is that that's page 4 of 15.
Yeah.
Under administration, I'm sorry. Administration /clerk. So how do you, in 2024, the revenue, other revenue 1,200, 2025 is projected to be 3,000.
So 1,200 in 2024 and 3,000 in 2025.
Yes.
So like I had mentioned, I adjusted the marriage licensing
Okay.
because we've seen an update and also vital statistics.
Okay.
So burial permits.
Okay.
And we did get one new hawker peddler license this year. So the initial fee for hawker peddler is quite significant. It's $5,000. And then an annual reoccurring is $1,000. So there is I can't guarantee that the $5,000 when it comes through to 2025. So I had to estimate for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. 4.2, Secretary Department, Earl Griggs, Director of Emergency Services and Fire Chief, you can come and do your presentation.
Still one more.
It's right after.
Chair. So you'll notice our first sheet for our budget, slight increase by 3%. We're trying to work with minimal increases. A lot of you'll see the material and supplies is going up. That's due to the cancer prevention, associated costs with bunker gear itself in particular. We've seen a rise of $600 a set. And with the life expectancy of bunker gear is only good for 10 years. We're looking at 4 or 5 sets a year just in bunker gear. That's $600 increase. Also, with that increase, we're looking at some equipment that's well beyond its lifestyle. And we're looking to replace it so we can buy into newer gear that's gonna last that full 15, 20-year life. So we're trying to keep it very modest, our budget this year. Next slide, please. So overall, the requirements in the operation, we have increased. Changes were made to individual items within the budget to reflect. Like I said, we're trying to really be careful as what our increases were and not being too extravagant. Again, the cancer prevention items, You'll see there is one capital item for cancer prevention this year. We're in an industry that the government recognizes 19 cancers that are presumptive legislated for our industry. It basically what that breaks down to, if you've been in the fire service for 10 years, you have almost a 95% guarantee you're gonna get one of these cancers. Unfortunately, we had one of our retired members from the volunteer system this year. He is now going through presumptive legislation. So we're trying to get ahead of with cancer prevention, it's more of a decontamination on scene. That's why we're requesting the trailer for this year. Extra bunker gear, extra gloves, flash hoods, to try to mitigate the exposure rates. We're looking to get people clean quicker, so we're not in soil equipment. We're doing a pretty good job at it so far. As you know, we've had the 2 big calls on the weekend. As of yesterday morning, all the bunker gear that was used is all now clean, dried, back in service. So it's a monumental task of getting 30 sets of gear back in service really quick. Because we don't have another 30 sets that we can just put on and go to the next call when it rings. And then again, the last item on that was updated worn out equipment. So we're still dealing with a lot of equipment from past that we're trying to replace as we, and make do with it until it's absolutely necessary to replace. Next slide, please. So some of our challenges for this year, again, it's fire prevention and education. It's an ongoing issue. The inspection order, we do have open orders on buildings. We're trying to mitigate liability on these buildings. You'll notice that we did start the program of boarding up some houses around town. That is a requirement of the fire department or the fire code, and that we've never done before. And we're trying to recoup the costing by sending it to the property owners. So it's not a burden on the system. We're trying to recoup that money back in. Certification of volunteers. So as of June 2026, you must be certified in the province of Ontario to be a firefighter. We should be okay. In that, we will probably have 95% of all the staff certified prior to 2026. It's a lot of hours for everybody. Every course is roughly 40 to 50 hours. And we're talking minimum 4 courses for each person, and trying to fit that in their work schedule, the regular training on Thursday nights. But everybody's stepping up and we're getting there. And we're glad to say that we can also do this in-house. So we're saving a lot of money by offering these courses in-house rather than have them go away, weekend away in a motel, paying for travel expenses. Which is great. Recruitment of volunteers. We're in the process of currently at 18 members. We're trying to get back to that 30 membership. I'm glad to say that I have 10 that are in the current recruitment right now. We've started interviews. So within the next month, we'll actually be starting training with those 10. So that'll put us pretty close to 28. The unfortunate side is we seem to gain some, but then we lose a couple. So we never really gain our foothold of maintaining to get to that peak number. It would be nice to have a reserve, but unfortunately, the time constraints for the volunteers, like we're looking at 100 hours plus a year for every volunteer just in training time on top of their regular work week. So it's hard to get them to come in and want to be part of that group. So we're trying to offer certification as a sort of a leverage to help them. Like, you could take this somewhere else if you wanted to go to a full-time service and apply to it. If we ever did another job posting, then it gives you that chance. Updating the bylaws again. There's still more fire bylaws that need to be updated. and then health and safety and the fire stuff. So it's just ongoing issues. We've conducted the feasibility study this year, so we completed it. We're looking for April to bring the study to the council. To have, you be able to have a look at it, see what they've come up with. Again, implementation of cancer prevention items and practices, so we're trying to do better. Revising the open air burn permits, we've done that last year. Was our educational year. Now this year, we're gonna start off with the educational again and just keep moving forward, so it's further progression along. Enhancement of the training to meet the certification process, so we've got a lot of our basic courses done. Now we're into our more technical courses of hazmat materials, more specific items that we're dealing with. Fleet management, so the trucks are operational currently, everything's working good. Again, we put it to the test the other night. Luckily, we didn't have any damage in any vehicle, so everything's running perfect. Guideline updates, we're still working through those, and enhancing workplace relationships, wellness and culture. So we're trying to foster more of the family environment at the fire station. And again, it's the more friendly you make the environment for the volunteers to be there, the more they want to be there. So we're trying to create that culture of inclusion and let's have everybody out. Be a good time. But I'm open to questions.
Honorable Mayor.
Through you, Madam Chair. So you did say in your speaking notes that we do offer in-house training. Are we able to provide that to other fire departments as well? Of course.
Unfortunately, I've had contact with Dobie, Goche Township, because they've asked that question of us, if we could provide them training. Going through the fire marshal's office and the fire college, talking with the fire college, they will not let us do the training because we're not associated to that department. So it's a liability through the fire marshal's office eyes to say that, why are you training them the proper way? So unfortunately, we can't provide that training. I am happy to say that we are getting the mobile live fire training unit this year again. So that will be here. And it was, to get it back in Kirkland Lake, we did leverage the fact that we were able to host all the neighboring townships to come to Kirkland Lake. So you will see us here for a 4-day event. And it may not be a Kirkland Lake truck that's here, it may be around a King. You'll see multiple departments here this year.
So do I continue? Yeah, okay, so you will see me kind of ask multiple departments about numbers being the same year over year. And so your grants, recoveries and revenues, I did go back to 2019 every year from 2019, and your user fees are pretty stable around that $500 mark. But the grants like varied from $0 some years to up to 10 grand. So is it just a matter of we don't know, so we'll just kind of stay safe and project in the middle?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, we don't want to guarantee on that money because we don't know if we're going to get it or not. The past few years, Embers has been giving a grant out. Did get it in 2023, didn't receive in 2024. So we can't guarantee on that $10,000 grant if we're going to receive it or not. We hope for it, but.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Owens.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I seem to remember last year having a conversation about recoveries and going after insurance companies. I don't think you mentioned that, right? Okay. Is that factored in yet, or is that a possibility yet?
Through you, Madam Chair. We are billing insurance companies for recoveries, but we don't show it on our money coming in, because it's not a guarantee of the insurance company covering the entire cost. So your policy may be only $2,000, where it may be a $20,000 bill that we're gonna send the insurance company.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
so those recoveries don't, okay, I see they're not budgeted because it's not a guarantee, I get that. What happens to them when we do get them? If we do? Does that show up somewhere in our bank account? I don't know how else to say it.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, absolutely. It's a normal revenue in the town's eyes. It goes under the fire department. It'll be under the recoveries line. So when we do those billings, especially the insurance ones, they're usually very clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll see, when we get the actuals for 2024, we should see a clear line of how much we managed to
Recover.
And just one last.
Yes.
And that goes to offset the operational cost of the fire department.
Through your Madam Chair. Correct.
Perfect.
Lashava?
Yeah, just follow up through you, Madam Chair, sorry. Just follow up with my question. Do we also respond to traffic accidents too, like using jaws of life to solve? Are there any recoveries from that? Or we don't venture to go on the highway to extricate people out of a jam? That's my question.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, we do. The recoveries that we receive through that is generally through the host department. So if we would go onto 11, where it would be Kenogami's typical run area, we would get a recovery from Kenogami Fire Department through the MTO billing.
I see, okay. My question, follow up is, I'm looking at the slide, expenditures. I see that the materials and supplies, quite a bit of a jump from $140,000 to $226,000. So, I mean, I can see that for capital replacement, I'm not asking for supplies. So that's quite a bit of a jump. Can you say a few things about that, please?
Again, a lot of it is material, like worn out equipment. It's equipment that's end of its life, like a portable two-way radio. We went from, that radio used to cost us $900. I did receive pricing last week because we did damage a radio at the call the other night. And unfortunately, that's now a $1,900 radio. So it's a problem in the fire industry. A lot of this, as soon as it's for the fire department, so that radio now has to become intrinsically safe, so it can't create a spark in an environment where a vapor is present that can create a fire. So that drives the price up. You tell them it's for the fire department, it drives the price up. We've seen this with fire trucks. Fire trucks have gone up 40 and 50% in 3 years. This is, unfortunately, we're in the industry. It's an unheard of and unprecedented of increase with no explanation of why the increase. It's just, that's what the manufacturer charges, and we're unfortunately at the mercy of the manufacturers.
Madam Chair, can I just add, there's been a slight change too in the way we do the two budgets, the capital and the operating for fire. In the past, you'd see fire hose and bunker gear on the capital budget, and now it's part of the operating budget, and it would hit that line exactly. So your discussion about bunker gear is part of that increase.
Through you, Finance Chair, that was the question I was gonna ask, so it's been asked and answered. Thank you.
Any other questions? so much. Corporate services, information technology, human resources, treasury, procurement, leasing, Sean Hart, director of services.
Madam Chair. Council. As you see from our first slide, we did have an increase, I think it was 4%. Actually, it works up to about 6%. The human resources is down a little bit. IT is basically set at the same amount as we did the year prior. Procurement's down a little bit. Both treasury and policing, as the other day when Lloyd at the initial budget forward, he did talk about it. I will talk about it today, and if you have questions, I do have the availability of having the treasury side, so that's good. And our health and safety is down a little bit, which is too as well. So information technology, the first thing I will mention, just because it did come up in the budget, it still says MIS, which is Management Information Systems. We had new software last year and it just didn't get populated and updated yet, so but it is information technology. So there are funds in the budget, materials, supplies, and consultants to continue their work on the roadmap. So last year, a full roadmap, which was set to improve network and security, was put in place. What we did find last year was a lot of the first part of the work was done by the IT manager and the IT technician. So there's still quite a bit to do. The first part was to get the support and set up from bottom up. I did put in increased annual licenses under contracted services. You'll see the contracted services actually down a little bit, but they continually look at ways to improve our security and network, at the same time looking at prudent projects and that kind of thing. So increased materials and supplies is working on a refresh program. So we are looking at 25 replacement computers and monitors for 2025. We have been just following as needed basis previously. What we did find this year is a few of our computers no longer would do updates, and so under IT, it should be 3 years, almost every 3 years you should get a new computer, but I mean, we are looking at probably 4 or 5 years, so we started with 25 this year in monitors, and we're gonna look at the refresh. So we will look at our basic list of assets under the IT and decide which ones need to be updated going forward. So as the treasurer had mentioned, the policing contract increased 107,000. And we also had extra funds in the Kirkland Detachment Police Board to basically cover the new board that's in place as of April 1st. So that did increase a little bit. It was a tough amount to actually put a figure to it, because we don't know exactly what it's gonna end up costing us for the year. And so treasury, as we mentioned, so most of the increase in the treasury budget is due to a decrease in revenue in form of investment returns. Interest rates in 2025 are expected to continue to decrease. If I'm not mistaken, they were upwards of 5.5% in early 24, and now they're down at 4, and they're down 1.5%, 2% kind of thing. So it makes a big difference on our cash balances and that kind of thing. The next thing is to recreate the deputy tax collector position, which the treasurer did speak to. We're looking to combine the asset management and accounts receivable position into a full-time position. We do have a position in place that was asset management for the last almost 2 years now. That initially was put through NOHFC. Through the increased collection of taxes, the dedicated tax collector position should begin to help cover some of the wages for the new full-time position. So basically,
the existing accounts receivable / assistant tax collector is gonna become the deputy tax collector, so we can look at really collecting our taxes. We'll see that in some of the and part of the challenges afterwards. We have an asset management consultant, which we've been using every year to complete the required asset management plan. There is another one due as July 2025, which includes level of service and all assets and that kind of thing. So we are in the midst of working with them on that. Procurement and risk management has a very small decrease. I put due to reduce expenses, but it's actually I looked at it again, and just some of the benefits amounts we overstated last year. We were trying to figure out where they should be at, and both that one and I think IT also had the same thing. It went down a little bit because of said in there 32% last year, and it's 25% this year, so it actually went down a little bit. So human resources and health and safety, so a small decrease overall in HR and health safety budget. This is due, if you remember, in 2023, we did eliminate the health safety coordinator position. So in 2024, we had quite a few extra courses for many of our staff, joint health and safety, supervisory training and that kind of thing. We still have a few to do this year, but it has went down somewhat, and you'll see a little bit of a decrease in the budget because of that. Challenges for 2025, I think the CAO put it correctly, the overall for corporation employee attraction and retention. It's been tough. We still have a turnover. We have a turnover with our public works, going to the mines. We have a turnover with TPR. Just it's a tough industry. I'm sure that the director will talk to that as well. The voluminous internal and external report request for Treasury. This was on here last year. I know that MCTO did and it looked like it was just 400 reports a year that they're looking at getting. There's just lots of reports to get done, and a lot of them are completed by Treasury because they need the numbers involved in that. Expense control due to increased cost of materials, supplies, and labor. I think that's across the board with the town. We do have several unions and collective agreements that do mean that increased labor costs each year and kind of thing. Collection of property tax and water arrears, so it has been a challenge. We're looking forward to have a dedicated assistant collector to help with that. Increased costs of contracted services, time management priorities. I think that's across the board too. It's just, we all have a lot on our plates, and it's just to get to that, to what needs to be done. So upcoming initiatives under human resources. Just some internal job description updates, continue to work on succession planning, and streamlining of onboarding, offboarding, and orientation. It was mentioned in a couple of slides earlier, was a training program that will help the administration work on as well. Procurement and risk management, finalization of the procurement policy training and implementation. Council approved the procurement policy I think it was the end of 2024, and just getting that back in place and following the policy. Continue to work on group buying best practices, implementation of building risk assessments recommendations, and modernization of formal procurement process. For Treasury, so I think this was continued from last year, but the implementation of pre-authorized payment process for corporate and industrial clients. Continue to digitize records. We have been working on this year over year, still work to do, and continue to explore fleet management options. We have met with a couple of companies just in the last 2 months. And then again, the deputy tax collector to improve tax collection. Under IT, we are looking at upgrading the existing telephone system at TPR, which I think will mean an increase to some of the other sites as well. Continue to update current IT policies and improve network efficiency and security. That's my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Sean. Questions from councilors and there? There, right?
Thank you. So we are not creating a new individual in our organizational structure. It's a combination of positions, and that is why in the Treasury Department, we only see an increase of 20,000 in that area, correct?
Sure. It's an increase from the way we've been staffed for the last 2 years. It's a return to the staffing we had 4 or 5 years ago. We have the same people downstairs, numbers wise, but one of those positions was funded outside, so the small increase is just a reflection that, you know, the funding didn't cover that full salary, so the gap is part of that. And we have some savings in a couple other positions, which, you know, we could talk about if we, you know, not an open, I guess it's
Yeah.
payroll related. So it's primarily because we don't have to fund the full position compared to what we were funding before. It's an increase, but it's the same staffing level. It's just, it is a new position, not an intern position anymore.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. That is exactly the clarification that I was looking for. And then just for an educational piece, when we talk about tax arrears, and we've gone over this, I think, every year during budget, but how does the amount of tax arrears owed to the municipality affect the budget process?
Madam Chair, so there's actually about 3 different ways the tax arrears number can show up in our budget. Every year we levy the taxes, and that is just a pure revenue. The number, you know, in this case, it'll be 13 million and something, or in that range. That goes into revenue, and during the year, it goes into receivables and gets paid by, you know, people who pay. There is no process in the immediate year to write off tax arrears. They sit in the receivables until such time as we think they're not collectible. If they get to that stage where they're not collectible, we would write them off, and there would be a charge which we included in the budget. So that's the downside of not collecting tax receivables. The potential upside is, of course, it brings cash into the corporation. It doesn't change the revenue. The revenue was already booked, no matter what year you're talking about in the receivables. But as you improve your cash flow, much of the discussion we just talked about interest rates and how much cash we have in the bank. If we have a couple more $1 million in the bank earning interest, even at a lower rate, that adds tens of thousands of dollars of income. And it improves the overall picture, both within Treasury and the corporation. That's the primary way it hits the budget. They're not necessarily showing up year to year. So in our scenario where we're going, you know, I just backtrack a little bit. You know, we have collected more taxes in the last 2 years than has ever been collected before. We levy more. It looks like the taxes receivable isn't getting better, but compared to how much we're levying, it's actually better. It just seems stagnant when you look at a number that sits there. But, you know, if you looked at a percentage of what we bill, we're doing a much better job of collecting even the way we're sitting. But we recognize there's a lot of room in that number that's still outstanding. We have a history here, which we've talked about many times, about some people taking advantage of our hesitancy to do something about this in the past. And that's where we're going. We're going to address that directly. The biggest benefit in the short term will be some kind of cash flow improvement. It also removes the possibility that we're going to be writing off taxes that we can recover with some more effort and some more time.
Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Councilor Shabbat?
Thank you, Madam Finance Chair. So back to this arrears, seems to me we have a lot of numbers here. They're very good to see and understand. But where do we find those numbers for the arrears? So that we, look at it. Is it 1 million? Is it 2 million? 200,000? Where is it in here? I know we're talking about it, but it's not in the room. We need to know. The question that the mayor asked, we know the amount, we can actually do the calculation based on what you told us about percentage that's required to reduce the tax, and we can do the calculation, hey, if we had got all this money, then maybe tax that would be there. So where is that amount? Where can we find the amount? Because maybe it's in here, but you know this better than me, but where is it? If it's not in here, how can we report it? So that, how can we have it reflected somewhere so that we keep track of it? Maybe it's going up, maybe it's going down. That way it will help us know that you guys are doing the best that you can do to recoup some of the money. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, there's two processes that you guys see that talk about what successes or challenges that we're having for the collections. In the, I'm sorry, I don't remember what we titled it, but we're reporting quarterly now, and included in that is the taxes receivable balance. I would say, if you're asking me to wing it, we typically have around $3 million sitting in that overdue amounts. We bill 13 million. The 3 million is not a current problem. It wasn't 30% of our people not paying their bills. That's an accumulation of many years. And it tends to be heavily weighted to several properties, which is not surprising. With regards to the budget, as I just explained, there is no true direct line on the budget unless you get to a stage where you're writing off taxes. The revenue is already there, so we're gonna book our revenue for the year once we start billing taxes. And all of us would have got taxes notices already, and with your due dates coming up, so the revenue's already in the system. We don't write that revenue off immediately. We don't even consider writing it off until something happens that drastically changes what we think we're gonna collect. So we talked about a tax sale process, and that's one of the scenarios. If some of these properties don't sell, if we can't recover the amounts, some of those might include write-offs. There is some ability for us to absorb those write-offs right now. In our taxes receivable balance, we have what we call an allowance for bad debt. And we do an estimate saying we're gonna carry a certain amount of bad debt. We know we always are going to, and we've already booked that. The cost of it is long gone through the budget process from years ago. And we will use that to draw down any write-offs related to the tax sale. So it won't hit the budget again this year. So again, there's no direct link to the budget in a current year from the current revenue, unless we're forced to write off taxes for some very specific purposes. Generally speaking, most municipalities do not do much by way of tax write-offs because we have the ultimate hammer that we can tax sale a property. And most of the time, we're gonna recover our taxes through that process. So you typically won't see it in the budget unless we get to some fairly kind of odd scenarios. We just might see that this year through the tax sale process because it's a guessing game whether or not we're gonna get back our taxes. But you'll see that in a report later in the year once we finish that process. We can have an even more fulsome discussion because then we'll actually see a hands-on example of what we're talking about theoretically right now. So.
Follow up. So having said that, my next question would be, is it trending up? Our tax rate, is it trending up or is it trending down? But that's the main thing. I think you said $3 million last time too. I'm not too sure, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. So, but compared to last year, where we are last year compared to now, is that arrears trending up or has it trended down?
Madam Chair, it's static at this point. It's essentially the same number it's been for 2 years. It's not static, practically speaking, though. We build more revenue. So if I could draw a parallel in a private business, you go out, you sell, book revenue. You don't want to write anything off until you're absolutely forced to. If you have a great year, your receivables are going to be a little bit higher till you collect them. It's the same with us. If we're booking more revenue on the tax side, until we collect them, the receivables might look a little bit bigger. It doesn't speak to whether we're doing a good job or a poor job. And as I mentioned earlier, personally, I think we're doing better than we have, especially through the COVID years. The COVID period, where, things are really, collections are up. They just don't show it because we have more revenue and we have a receivable that's not moving. So I'm not diminishing the fact that we have to deal with that receivable. It's a significant challenge for us. But it is better than it was. And again, once we get through the tax sale process, we can come with a report that'll give a much more fulsome discussion around this.
Thank you, Lloyd. Anybody else? Thank you, Sean. For you residents, John Schumacher, Director of Long-Term Care and Senior Services.
Because I walked blind. Through you, Madam Chair, to Mayor and Council. This is our budget presentation. So this is a little different than what I have on my screen. I think there has been, did it get fixed? Did not get fixed. So there's a discrepancy that just needs to be fixed for $100,000 in that column.
Which column?
Where's that?
Under
Donations.
transfers and donations.
Donations, recoveries, donations, recoveries and transfers.
And you're adding the 100,000?
Yes. So under our revenues, donations, recoveries and transfers, where is the error?
It needs to go up by 100,000.
In
Yes, so
2025?
yes.
Like that, right on this.
So, sorry, which line?
Revenues.
Yeah.
Donations, recoveries and transfers.
Okay,
Needs
that's
to go to
okay.
3,025.86, which means this number goes up 1,000.
100,000.
Sorry, 100,000,
Eight
sorry.
million, 690,000.
Yes. And then obviously this is going to change as well.
Correct.
I think it's not,
Sorry.
nothing changes except for that $100, just.
Yes, just the same,
All the
yes.
other numbers are right.
Oh, it's just
Give
the
the line
same.
ones, yeah.
Got it.
There's a bottom line here, doesn't
No,
change the
no,
It
bottom
doesn't
line.
change the
It's
bottom
right.
line. It was just that one.
Yeah. I think it was like
Just an error.
in and out and didn't get yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So you'll notice that the largest increase is related to labor related. We've tried to keep materials and supplies at the same budget line. I'll get to that when we discuss those things. Next slide, yes. So just to give some rationale over 2024 and 2025, what the increases and how the impacts have affected our budget. So you're all well aware that there is a requirement to reach 4 hours of care per resident per day. So as of the time of completion of the budget, we were sitting at 3.92 hours per resident day, which is, just a sneeze away from where we need to be by the end of this month. And we already have it's planned and it's budgeted for the 2025 to get us to those 4 hours. The same goes for allied, that is dietary, housekeeping, laundry, maintenance, all of the services that support the home. They have a threshold to be at 36 minutes per resident per day, and we're well within that already. PSW wage enhancement, so that's the $3 per hour that was given to PSWs initially on a temporary basis. Then Premier Ford had made it a permanent. So that is nearly $300,000, but that is funded. Overtime hours related to staffing shortages, sick time, as well as short-term disability, long-term disability. So in 2024, we had 7 staff on maternity leave, 31 on short-term disability, 4 on a family or caregiver leave, 5 on long-term disability, and 2 on an education leave. To 21,945 hours of sick time at a cost of $431,962.12. Overtime costs on top of that, $240,947. That is nearly $750,000. Increase to cost of benefits and short-term and disability claims also impacts those things. As many of the other managers have discussed, recruitment and retention of qualified staff. So in 2024, we recruited 42 new staff, and that's across all departments in the home, all of which required classroom orientation and like buddy orientation on the units or in the areas where they work. We expect this trend to actually continue. Training costs for 2024 were almost $125,000. Our union collective agreements for QP 1074 was ratified last year. 3% increase came in September 2024. There will be another in September 2025. We're currently in the negotiation period for ONA. No confirmed increases are known, but we expect that there will be some. Changes to previously negotiated collective agreements have actually added increased costs. So changes to language in collective agreements related to bereavement has actually increased our costs. We paid out $25,000 in bereavement costs, which is significant. Evening, weekend premiums, you see that almost 200,000. Vacation, holiday pay, over 1.1 million. Increase the supply costs, so everything from incontinence supplies, nursing supplies, medical supplies, linens, paper products, and food. So we already use group purchasing for many of our items. We get best costs related to those group purchasing initiatives. We're already seeing increases in food. And we anticipate with tariffs and those kind of things that we're actually going to see a greater impact. We purchase Canadian-based products. We don't have any vendors that are American-based, but like somebody else mentioned, supply demand and their ability to get resources may increase our costs related to those tariffs. Increase costs associated with contract services, so physiotherapy, dietitian, our lift equipment, and our software. So as we talked about recruitment and retention of qualified staff, we have been without our own dietitian for greater than a year and have had to use a contracted service at a much greater price. In my budget, we have requested that we increase our maintenance position. So currently we have a maintenance manager, a maintenance assistant, and we are asking for a second maintenance assistant, primarily for succession planning. So we expect that in the next 2 to 5 years, we will need to do significant succession planning in terms of most of the managers in the home. Myself, the director of care, and the maintenance manager are all within retirement age. So putting this position in place would be an additional 37.5 hours bi-weekly or weekly. Mayor White asked a question about what was the breakdown and the distribution of wages for the current maintenance and maintenance assistant. So currently they both work 40 hours weekly. Half of their wages are considered under TPR's budget and the other 50% are distributed. We're fortunate that we do have some one-time funding that we can cover the costs of this maintenance position through the 2025 budget and build it into next year's budget with that same breakdown of distribution of wages. I gave you a little history of what the maintenance position looked like. So if you aren't aware that our maintenance department, which is 2 individuals currently, also services the other municipal buildings in town, OPP, Public Works, fire department, library. There is some crossover with OPP and the other maintenance position covers the other departments. So challenges for 2025. We continue to struggle with staff shortages. Recruitment and retention of qualified RNs, RPNs, and PSWs will continue to be a challenge. We were fortunate to have a Northern College level PSW and RPN program. And as far as I'm aware, they are not continuing next year. We are seeing more and more PSWs coming to us having completed online education, requiring more hands-on training when they actually come to the home. They're not coming out of those programs with the skills that a hands-on in-depth program offers. Retention is more on the forefront for us. We've had 36 employees resign, retire, or not meet the conditions of employment in 2024. And all of those positions are needed, required, and have to be replaced, had to be replaced. Short-term and long-term disability leaves. While many people have recovered from COVID, healthcare really has not. We are still kind of lagging behind. Anyone that was waiting for an elective surgery through the period of COVID is now getting in. They're getting their carpal tunnels, their knees, their all of those things. So we're seeing a big uptake in short-term disability leaves because those people were waiting for surgery. We currently have 9 full-time and 8 part-time staff on some sort of leave. So all of those positions are posted and replaced temporarily while those people are on leave. And we do track those on our KPIs monthly. We are always working to ensure we're in compliance with the Fixing Long-Term Care Home Act. So the ministry has been in our building. They have offered us, compliance inspections. We will take those and increase what we do to ensure we're meeting compliance with those things. So we had 5 visits in 2024, all longer than 3 days. So that puts a big impact. They look at a lot of things. In 5 days, they lift a lot of rocks, and we have things that we need to correct, and we're working diligently to get those done. I talked about succession planning. That's going to be important not only in my division, but others as well. Our quality improvement plan is the basis of, how we look at our indicators and what we need to do for our residents to ensure that outcomes are good. So our quality improvement plan is due annually on the 1st of April. So we're right in the height of getting this done. And once that is in place, we will share it with our committee of management. We're very close, like I said, to hitting our 4 hours per resident per day and our 36 minutes for allied staff. We have just put out our annual resident satisfaction survey, and there are items on that survey that do guide our quality improvement plan. We are increasing our wellness initiatives to promote the health of our employees, and that includes psychological health and safety, as well as reinstituting and reinvigorating the attendance management program. So I've identified the costs associated with sick calls, overtime, and that's our goal, to push that number way down. Provide assistance where needed to those who are struggling, but also to, you know, attack those culpable absences and those things that are costing us a lot of money. We have several new modules that are coming up through Point Click Care, which is the software that we use for all of our documentation. So those are mostly funded through clinical support tools and medical safety tools. We are well into our pathway implementation, so that started last year and it will continue through this year. As everybody else has mentioned, policy and procedure reviews for all departments, and we're ensuring that we're meeting all regulatory and legislative requirements. Reviewing all job descriptions to ensure that we're working efficiently, and this will come and it'll be a really good addition to what we'll see in the operational plan or the operational review. We are working on optimizing our case mix index, and I'm sure nobody knows what that is, but I'm gonna explain it to you a little bit. So Stacy probably knows. Every resident is assessed on a 3-month basis, and they are given a score, which is called their case mix score. If we are not documenting correctly, we are not going to get the funding that's appropriate for each resident. So we're working on ensuring that each assessment is optimized, not gaming, not playing the system, but the care that we're providing to the resident is accurately documented, and we're getting every cent we can for their care. In October of 2025, we will be moving through a new model. So RIE, which is what the assessment is called, is going through a new model. So the early adopters are going now. We're going at the very end because our list of things is very deep. We'll let them work out all the bugs and we'll get it done. And then we're moving to a primary care model for our residents in the next month. So currently, staff members work as a team to care for the 32 residents on a unit. There is concerns about documentation, lack of documentation, consistency for the residents. So staff members will have an assignment. They will care for the resident and provide all the care they need, all the documentation to ensure that we can build on that optimization. We talked a little bit about the resident van. You will be getting a letter from our residents addressing their desire to have this back. They're feeling separated from their community. The costs associated with taking a taxi, using the services that are available to them are very, very expensive. They want to go to the beach, they want to go to the cemetery, they want to go to the mall and have their nails done. We will be able to give them this if this is approved. There is the potential for some recovery. With that ban, there isn't any reason we can't charge for appointments or things that are one resident based. We'll use the van for activities, but we have the potential to make some money and kind of recover. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm just wondering, how and maybe you know something ahead of time, but how realistic is it to budget for $100,000 this upcoming year? I looked back and last year was a banner year. We had that one family that gave very, very generously. So how realistic is that?
It's pretty realistic.
Excellent, that's good
Got
news.
some other things up my sleeve that I'll report to you.
Excellent, that's good news as always. And I know Councillor Owens kind of hit on this a little bit Tuesday, and I'm still kind of a little bit confused as well. So all, like the materials and supplies and all that kind of stays the same year over year, but then in your report, you noted that there is going to be increases. So how do we reconcile your speaking notes versus what we see in the numbers?
Again, it's very difficult to budget something you don't know, right? This week, in-kind and supplies could be this much money. Next week, they could be less money. It is honestly a guess. It is a guess. We're gonna try and maintain that line is all I can say.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Shallow?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Finance Chair. To the director, thank you for your good work, and I see the enthusiasm, so one of these days, when I ever end up there, I know I'm gonna get a good care.
Absolutely, come for a visit.
I'm just looking at the overtime hours, and you said it very eloquently that it's related to staffing shortages. But I'm looking at the hours of sick time, 21,945 hours. Will it make a difference if people take time off in lieu of payment? Because a lot of people are enjoying taking the time off instead of getting paid, then you get nailed with taxes, you know? Would it make a difference? People are at least given the option to take time off in lieu of, I guess you're gonna have to hire to backfill, I don't know, but just.
They're unionized, we don't have the ability to do that.
Councilor Dickens, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Finance Chair. It is specific to this, but also general. So maybe the treasurer could respond. So we're getting budget numbers from 2024 and then budget numbers from 2025 for all departments, but we don't have actual numbers, and we got really surprised last year with operating overruns, not just like in other departments. So I'm just wondering, like, do you, I know you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the department. So are we concerned, can we have confidence in all of the budget numbers, or is there going to be a surprise with actual costs?
Madam Chair, I am planning on presenting actuals as per the request of Councillor Kylie at the last meeting. So we'll get essentially this first attachment updated with a column for actuals. I want to, as I suggested with Councillor Kylie, they are unaudited, they are subject to significant change because we're only in the third month after year end. There's a lot of work that goes on and it changes the numbers before we get to the audit. So you'll take them with a grain of salt, but they'll give you something to kind of compare. As far as TPR itself, they were within their budget last year. It wasn't, they did not overrun. And you'll see that in the numbers that I'll give to you. Overall, I guess I'm gonna state the obvious. I can't say with any confidence what we'll actually hit when we get to the end of the year. But all the directors have made a pretty strong effort to try and anticipate what's coming. We get thrown, curveballs all the time, much like our flood, which cost us some money. Not enough to get some funding from the province. But it costs money. It costs money to do something about that. And we have those things, they pop up all the time. You usually see them in reports. When things get kind of out of whack or challenging, you'll usually hear about them. So, it's I think the effort and the work has gone in to make these numbers meaningful. I don't think that they're just rolling forward and add a percentage type of mentality. They've gone through it line by line. When we went through those 2 or 3 stages we talked about, that's exactly the questions we were asking of the directors. Well, what about this? Can you save a bit of money there? What about that? Is that reasonable, given what we know, from many discussions at SMT and even around council. So, I can't give you some kind of a confidence inspiring comment, but the work has gone into it to try and get to something we think we can rely on.
Just a follow-up comment, for you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's very clear that great thought and effort went into the budget, so that's not what, I was suggesting. It would just seem to be helpful if we had those other figures, that's all.
Yeah, through you. Sure, Madam Chair. I'm getting there. I couldn't do it in 2 days. So you will see it before the 18th. It'll be, I guess, an addendum. I'm not sure how we actually.
Finance Chair will be publishing it with the agenda.
Yeah, I just don't know how it's presented in the package, whether it's an addendum or something else, but there will be it'll look much like this. It'll just have an extra column. And like I said, I'm just giving you the heads up that, the numbers are where they are a month ago when we pulled the data. And they're going to change. They're not subject to change. They will change because we're just not done our year end. So.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Any other questions?
Sure, for question for you, Madam Chair. The van, I'm not sure, I've been on that committee for 6 years now, and I live across from a group home with a van that goes by several times a day. I don't know why it's never dawned on me that it's a service that we should be offering our residents, and I'm happy that assuming the budget passes the way it is, it's a service we'll be offering. Will it require more fees for licensing for the people that will be driving it?
Likely.
Will that be bared by the municipality? Those, it's not in the budget right now, so is that something that's gonna be added to the budget later?
I'm really not sure.
Or is that a curveball?
That's a great question. I will get back to you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I can actually talk, I have some knowledge of how it works in a different organization. So typically, you'd reimburse the employees for the cost of their license. Most of them, when they apply, you'll know whether or not they have that appropriate class, which is usually an F class, depending on what size van you buy. If you're asking existing employees to get the license, it's normal to reimburse them. It's not thousands of dollars to get there. So it's not going to change the budget in any significant way, but there is a cost. There's certainly a cost. Yeah.
Councillor Owen?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. When I'm looking at the expenditures, and Councillor Owens raised concerns about this. Utilities, it's listed the same in 2025 as it is in 2024. I wish my utilities would be the same in 2025 as it is in 2024. Materials and supplies, it's listed the same, yet we know every time we go to the store 3 months later, it costs us more. I don't understand these numbers at all. Like, there's no increases reflected, and yet we live with inflation every day.
Madam Chair. The utilities, we are charging utilities through our partner, the hospital. My deputy treasurer spent months throughout 2024 having back and forth with them, so we're actually seeing utilities go down. So that line is more, we're keeping it where we thought it was, but we think we might even get some savings on that line, but you can't get the number. As far as the other numbers, it's not a lack of thoroughness, it's a recognition that Tanya's going to try and hold the line on the numbers that you're seeing. We could have put a small change in if it created that scenario. But like I said, I speak to the utilities directly. Interest in long-term debt payments, that doesn't change. It's a loan payment. So that's never going to change. Utilities again are very reasonable given what we're, and it comes out in a couple other areas a little bit, not just utilities, materials and supplies are also a contracted services where we've seen some small savings with our back and forth. So, you know, they're the same numbers, but it's not like we're not recognizing that there's been some movement within those numbers. Okay.
Councillor Diamond?
Thank you, Madam Finance Chair. With respect to that interest and long-term payments, debt payments of 554,160, that was for the building of the building initially. That ends soon, does it not?
2028.
Okay, thank you.
I have a two-part question. The case management process that you guys will be starting, is this something you've done in the past, or will this be completely new to?
It's just a revision of the document they use.
Maybe I'm not using the right, I mean, having one person assigned to a resident.
Oh,
for
that's
documentation.
primary care. That
Primary
is-
care, is
that
this
is
a
new, yes.
completely new?
Yes.
Okay. Is this process expected to be, to have any cost savings at all, or is it simply just a new operational quality control system?
Just a new operational. It is better for consistency of the residents.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Development and enterprise services, building services, economic development, planning services, bylaw enforcement, residential development, and animal control. And
It's not.
Good evening, Finance Chair, and rest of council. I come to you from the small but mighty, Development and Enterprise Services Department. I'm going to go over, just on the first slide, Jen, some changes. The way I've decided to structure with some major changes in some line items this year is to go through each division as they serve very different purposes and have very different day-to-day operations. Animal control, to start, is managed by contracted service. Currently in 2025, there are no further changes to the contract, as you can see in the department overview. In 2025, we've given residents more options in where dog and cat tags are available, and hoping this change will bring improvements to uptick and on pet licensing. We're working with DSAB and larger scale landlords to ensure that pet licensing is stressed on the onset of a rental property. We hope to report back to council in 2025 with the results on the focus on the increase in compliance and licensing. In late 2024, we encountered and are predicting to encounter again in 2025 an increase in dog surrenders. We've been faced on a couple occasions with zero capacity for additional surrenders. It's important that residents are aware that we don't have infinite space, and from time to time, we are going to be full. I'll jump ahead to some rationale for the Building Services Department. Just so you're all aware, Building Services Department manages the building permits, building inspections, and is the governing division of upholding the Ontario Building Code, building complaints, along with all administration of the above. Currently, the division, we have one CBO, a property standards officer, and a portion of files through a contracted services firm to assist with file loads. In 2024, saw our department undertake larger scale public engagement of the building division. Items such as what needs a permit, how a permit is obtained, what constitutes a well-maintained property in the town of Kirkland Lake. In latter portion of 2024, the building division has seen an increase through the active enforcement of building without permits, complaints process through the inquiries received through the public engagement. We plan to keep public education going through 2025 to see an overall change in compliance. Property standards will continue to be a focus in 2025. Active enforcements of our property standards bylaw working with residents through complaints and the newly formed community beautification group have helped significantly. Our approach through our informal and formal notices to comply are descriptive and comprehensive to assist in addressing in clear language and photos the concerns to the resident. 2024 saw record files completed from the compliance perspective, and we will continue to address the needs of the community for cleaner, more aesthetically pleasing neighborhoods within Kirkland Lake. In 2025, we will be undertaking a greater focus on derelict homes and buildings within Kirkland Lake. We have begun an in-house study addressing the highest needs buildings that are in the greatest priority of action. We will also work diligently with private landowners in addressing this matter, but currently are prepared to take action as well. This to say, with addressing the needs of the community and department focus on active enforcement to make our community cleaner and our buildings safer and compliant with the Ontario Building Code, we did see increases in some areas in budget 2025. Areas such as increased legal expenses to address non-compliance, orders to comply, orders to remedy, additional resources to tackle the most of derelict homes, costs associated to tackling these files have been allocated in our budget this year. It is important to note that the 2024 budget tabled had some projects that were delayed and other projects that never came to fruition. This definitely is identified in the revenue stated in our budget this year. Our attempt in 2025 was to take a historical look when budgeting department revenues and not relying heavily on the possibilities. We will always encounter projects and revenues we didn't foresee, but taking a historic look will serve our budget more effectively moving forward. Into economic development and tourism. The functions of the Economic Development Division is a crucial part of Kirkland Lake's future. The mandate of economic development is to strive to improve the standard of living for residents by fostering business development, investment attraction, and business retention and expansion. Collaborating with other levels of government to leverage funding through program opportunities for an overall goal of strengthening the local economy here in Kirkland Lake. Coming into 2025, we are working with a refreshed economic development strategic plan. The plan has identified several directives. Each directive is labeled with a short-term, medium-term, and long-term goal. Our department has tabled an additional FTE to fill the role as Economic Development and Tourism Marketing Coordinator. This position is reduced from the shifted position of Manager of Economic Development and Tourism. As my slide indicates, that council does have the opportunity to fund this from the town's portion of the Economic Development Reserve that stems from the introduction of the MAT tax that commenced from this department January 1st of 2024. We believe it's more important now than ever to have this role to be an active contributor in creating opportunities to engage potential investors, developers, and encourage businesses to think Kirkland Lake. Items tabled in our department budget include being active municipality in regional and national industry conventions and strong marketing abilities to strengthen Kirkland Lake's digital assets in economic development and tourism. 2025 saw a multi-day video series placing Kirkland Lake on the map as a signature location for everything snowmobiling. This stemmed from a great partnership made possible through Tourism Ontario and Northeastern Ontario Tourism. It was a true success, and these are the types of initiatives that need to be leveraged for the future. Moving into planning services and bylaw enforcement. Municipal Planning Services Division is responsible for developing plans and policies for the orderly growth of a community. They also work to ensure that the community is sustainable and resilient. The division is responsible for maintaining our official plan, zoning bylaw, along with the community improvement plan. Planning Services works on applications related to items such as the Planning Act, disposition of surplus lands, minor variances, consents to sever, site plan control agreements, and zoning amendments. This vital community service is very important as we move forward in a time of growth. In 2025, we'll be embarking on an official plan review. This is essentially a long-term planning document that will guide the future development of the municipality. Purpose of such a document sets out the municipality's vision and goals for its future growth. It provides policy direction and guidance for land use. The plan is also used as a blueprint for items such as population growth, infrastructure, and the environment. We'll be embarking on a refresh of our community improvement plan as well in 2025. The current CIP model, for the most part, is quite effective, but has major limitations that need to be addressed. We will at that time undertake a modernization of the program to investigate options to include a broader geographic area along with additional funding streams. This program is but one directive stemming from the updated economic development strategic plan. Bylaw enforcement services. So our municipal enforcement services are the arm of local government that ensure compliance with the municipal bylaws. Responsibilities include parking regulation, taxi licenses, and community standard clean yards, along with all the administrative duties relating to this function. Currently in the town, we have one full-time officer. As we move into 2025, you'll see in my slides, public education will be ongoing. We started in 2024 with great success, but much is still needed. We continue to face roadblocks in clean yards, and winter parking has been a struggle. The division is structured with one officer working daytime hours. We have started to stagger working hours to curb the habits of overnight parking through winter months, as Public Works has had challenges in areas in town while plowing. Cooperation with our officer has been great, and we will continue to work closely with Public Works to hopefully change the habits here in Kirkland Lake. With active enforcement being a department goal, we have had challenge of meeting the needs of the community. With current resources, we know there is much more work to do, but we are working with the resources that we have currently. With added bylaws to enforce with one officer, it has been challenging, but we will be spending 2025 to strike a balance and create a targeted approach. We'll also be investigating in 2025, moving to an AMPS program from our current traditional provincial court system. Administrative monetary penalties serve as an enforcement compliance with rules and regulations. They provide an alternative to the traditional criminal prosecution for less severe violations. An example, parking violations, clean yards. They're a monetary penalty, meaning they involve financial penalties, and the goal is to self-administer our fines. Shifting to a model like this is less restrictive, and we retain the revenues from violations within the municipality over a shared approach through the provincial offenses. Lastly is just a little bit in regards to the last column in my first slide on residential development. From 2024 to 2025, you will see a large change in residential development revenues. Residential development monies are collected from land sales. These, as you may know, are hard to predict, as been said earlier in many other revenue sections in other departments. As I said earlier in the building section, revenues from our department are difficult. In 2025, we've taken a historical approach in creating revenues to be more realistic, and that gives us an opportunity that when projects come up that we may make over and above, that it does show as a revenue to the municipality. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dan. You went a little rogue there. Slides. But we appreciate that.
It's very difficult to place all those slides together with 4 different divisions that are very unique. So I apologize for that.
Questions from councilors? Honorable Mayor.
Thank you for that. Chair. So just to refresh my memory, how long is the animal control contract?
I believe we have 2 years left.
2 years left?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And I do agree that, sorry, I'll continue because I do agree that the ED tourism coordinator should be funded from the town's portion. of the mat. It is very different. I spoke very strongly that our money should not go to staffing. And I still believe in that. The money collected, that 50% minus administrative cost to go to tourism initiatives and economic development, I feel very strongly that it will under Dan's leadership, but we do need a devoted staff in this area, like our previous ED who wore many hats, as you can see from the list. Mr. Labrador also now wears many hats, and we need somebody that's gonna bring Kirkland Lake to the forefront in people's minds, so I do appreciate that. We do have a large decrease in user fees, and you did briefly kind of speak about historical numbers, so I just want you to make that clear why there's such a big difference.
For sure, through you, Madam Chair. We have had several projects in the past that have been budgeted for ahead of them coming to fruition. And we cannot be responsible for the changes that happen, whether it's the economic climate, whether it's changes in a company's direction. So I think for budgeting purposes, it's more prudent to place a historic value of what we have been in and celebrate the victories should we foresee an industry or change in a sale of land or an industry moving into town.
Thank you, Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Shabba.
Okay, thank you very, Madam Finance Chair. Director, I just want to share this with you so that we don't repeat the same problem down the road. There was a time when, probably last time, when we did not have any CBO. Maybe predated before your time, and people were really doing their own thing and all of that. And then we do have one now, and things are back on track, but a lot of frustration back then, and some of them are recurrent as I speak. So, I mean, what is your department, what are we doing going forward to make sure that we don't run into that same difficulty again, whereby there will be nobody there when people need a permit, and they have to bill, and so how can we be very sure that at least somebody will be there, or there will be a plan B? You know, I realize that people have holidays, on mat leave or whatnot, but that's one department where you cannot afford not to have anyone there, especially when contractors and builders are waiting to get a permit and get going.
For sure, through you, Finance Chair, to Councillor Shabba. As stated in some other departments this evening, attraction and retention of employees is difficult. Attraction and retention of CBOs in the province of Ontario is at an all-time low. I think at this current juncture, we are very fortunate. We do have a CBO that is currently on maternity leave, and we do have a fully licensed CBO in the position, relief position currently. It's twofold. It's to make sure that we retain our CBO that we have. And we do have a contracted service CBO for, like I said earlier, in the overflow department currently. With the growth that we could foresee in the future, I hope to sit here next year and have a very different story for council, in that we have the capacity in our department to entertain a deputy CBO, to move away from the reliance on contracted services CBOs. But at this juncture, in looking at revenues based in building permits that we currently have, it is not fiscally prudent for us to add a CBO. Where our problem lies in the building division right now is that time frame where there was gaps. And we are currently trying to struggle through compliance of non-compliance issues and building without permits. which has placed a strain on the building services division.
Thank you, Dan. As chair, I want to just reiterate that we're here to have presentations of different departments. And specifically, I'm not trying to pick on anyone, but it was a good example. The question that you were asking, Councilor Shava, was not specific to a line item budget item, but to an operation and a process. So it's already a lot of information for us to take in. So if going forward, councilors can really try and make sure that they're sticking to line item budget items when they're asking their questions. They're good questions, they're just maybe not for tonight's meeting. Okay, any other questions for Dan? See, now I scared. Thank you, Dan, that was a great presentation. Public Works, roads, airport, water, wastewater, and waste, wow. Water and wastewater management. Yeah. We have Stefan Forte, Director of Public Works.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Council. This budget presentation is specific to the roads department, streetlights, waste management, and the town's airport. Next slide, please. Overall, the 2025 operation budget that's presented only has a slight increase of 1.36%. We've increased the roads budget slightly this year because the plan is to continue improving the stormwater management system along Murdoch Creek. Replacement of large storm pipes and replacement of manholes at the intersection of Pollock Street and Dixon Avenue is planned for this summer. And this is a project that we do intend to do in-house. Our crew has proven themselves very capable of tackling these types of projects. Also, we've increased the budget slightly for hot mix asphalt, which we believe is justified considering the poor condition of numerous roads in town. Every time we dig for repairs, there's a cost to restore the asphalt surface, therefore an increase in this item will help us tackle more patches. Streetlights have become more costly to repair and to maintain due to rising prices of parts and a rising price for licensed electricians. The cost to maintain the airport seems to have reduced. We no longer have a full-time attendant at the airport, therefore maintenance is only undertaken when needed. The airport attendant is not a part-time employee, but rather a full-time employee that splits his time between the needs of the airport and the needs of the roads department. Next slide, please. Challenges for 2025. Winter maintenance continues to be challenging due to frequent freeze-thaw cycles over the winter months. Road shaving to control the depth of snowpack is still considered to be effective, though we still receive some complaints about snow chunks in front of driveways. Every complaint continues to be investigated, and removal of snowbanks in front of driveways will only be done if the road supervisors deem it necessary when excessive chunks are caused by the operation itself. The spring thaw will bring along the usual challenges of keeping up with potholes. Every year seems to be getting worse, and we mostly rely on cold mix due to price and availability. We will try to incorporate more hot mix asphalt for filling potholes in our operation, but it's more expensive. Next slide, please. Other challenges include the timing of budget approval. When budget is approved 4 months into the year, well, that's 4 months lost for planning of projects. Trying to complete 12 months of budgeted work into 8 months is very difficult. Also, as we know, prices of parts, supplies, and labor are continuing to rise. and makes some projects at risk of overrunning budgets. Next slide. Upcoming initiatives include the construction stage of the Connecting Link project from Bullthorpe Road to Heritage North, an AODA project for pedestrian safety at the intersection of Woods and Government Road. We're going to be completing the pedestrian crosswalk at the federal school. And we continue to work on aging storm system along Murdoch Creek and Rand Creek. And we'll be adding GPS tracking units to all public works vehicles, including waterworks. Next slide. For the landfill, we're planning to trade in the site office that was purchased last year. That was unfortunately not well suited for an off-grid location. We're working towards tendering out a new contract for waste collection, which will no longer include recycling. Recycling is transitioning out of the town's responsibility starting October 1st and will be handled by Circular Materials and their chosen contractor, which was announced to be GFL. We are considering making some changes at the landfill to restrict the disposal of some recycling materials. And for the airport, we're planning to complete the crack filling on the asphalt runway. Slide. The presentation will be adequate, and I can take any question you may have.
Thank you, Stefan. Councillor Owens.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. It's a great budget. While we finished on that garbage part, the garbage contracts, so I'm assuming now our garbage costs will be going down. We're going back out to tender. Before it goes out to tender, will council have input on trying to find creative ways to save even more money on that one?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, March 18th, I will be bringing a report to council with some suggested changes before we go out to tender.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you noted in your presentation that the timing of budget approvals can significantly impact the start of large construction projects. In your opinion, would your department be able to project road work items or major capital items 2 years into the future? Is that something that you feel your department would be able to do for 2026, 2027? Knowing what you know now of your department.
For you, Madam Chair. I could definitely probably know, yes, what projects we would want to do, but without prior council's approval, moving forward with these projects can't happen. The only exceptions that I can see right now is if it's a funded project, for the Connecting Link, for example, which when we got into an agreement with the ministry, we agreed that we're moving forward not only with the design stage, but the construction stage, which was approved by council at that time. I'm not sure if that's an avenue that council wants to start approving non-funded projects years in advance.
So yes. Every year I pitch my idea of doing forward-facing budgeting, so that was just my little pitch through you, Madam Chair. Do we know, like, what specifically in your report again, you noted cause of difficult to reach areas on Murdoch Creek and Rand Creek. Is that just because of like topographical issues, or is there any other barriers to reaching those areas?
Through you, Madam Chair. The difficulties with Murdoch Creek and Rand Creek is that the creek itself goes through private properties, goes through laneways, and they're very difficult locations to reach. And but in my opinion, in 2024, we've tackled some of the worst locations as far as access. And that's why we're moving over now to the intersections where we have full access.
Excellent, so that's not a cost issue. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Shabbat?
Yes, it's me. Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So, again, we're talking about non-core services all the time to see how we can at least set them aside. And it's good to see that the budget, the airport is going to be going down considerably. 164,000 to 107. So, I think one of the questions I asked last time too was that, is it, like, how many people are actually using this airport? I mean, is traffic actually there?
Councillor Shaba?
Is that not good?
It's not a budget question, it's
Okay,
an
maybe I
operation.
can rephrase this question. How are you able to decrease that to $170,000? How do we go from 164,000 to 107,000?
Through your Madam Chair.
Is that okay?
Through your Madam Chair. As I had mentioned in my presentation, in the past, there used to be a designated full-time attendant at the airport. And the department, when the airport was rolled over to the Public Works Department, we determined that there might not be a need for a full-time attendant at the airport. And that's why the time of the attendant is split between the roads department and the airport. So there's only an attendant there when there's snow clearing to be done or summer maintenance, but not on a full-time basis anymore. And we're noticing that it's actually very effective and the airport's maintenance is getting done just fine.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Great. Moving on to water wastewater.
All right, this budget presentation is very specific to water and wastewater. Next slide, please. Overall, the operations budget for water and wastewater has only increased slightly and is mainly to further replenish the reserves for upcoming years. The main driving factor for this budget is the ongoing improvements of our water and wastewater treatment plants and also the lift stations. These improvements are not only recommended, but they're mandatory to meet the strict legislative requirements for water quality. Next slide, please. The main challenges continue to be the aging infrastructure and finding less costly alternatives to maintain the water distribution system and the sanitary collection system. Water main relining projects are becoming more and more popular in the north. As discussed with council before, water loss and water waste from our water distribution system is something the department is continuing to research as to find solutions to reduce this effect. Next slide, please. Upcoming initiatives include water main relining on Wood Street, Duncan Avenue, and Taylor Avenue will help increase water carrying capacity and will help with future development. We're also planning to do some work on hydrants and some painting. We will continue to refine our valve turning program. Happy to report that in 2024, we verified and inspected every single valve in town. We're continuing to develop a stronger leak detection program. Research for possible solutions to reduce water waste from dead-end leaders is ongoing. Research for potential acceptance of industrial waste and subject waste at the wastewater treatment plant. And continued work at the water treatment plant to rebuild the filters. The third of 4 filters is scheduled for replacement this year, which is the most costly item. And thank you for letting me present. And if there's any questions.
Questions from council?
Through you, Madam Chair, this is one department that I didn't have any questions about. I just wanted to let you know how focused your report was on the items that matter to the community. And I just wanted to let you know how much we appreciate that. It was so clear, you know, we always get asked, you know, we pay high taxes, what is it going for? your report just now answered so much of that for where the wastewater and water money goes to. You laid it out very, very clear. So I just want to appreciate, to let you know how much I appreciate that. Because the understanding in the public of taxation and the water being separate, it's really clear what you're doing with your money. So thank you very much for that.
Councillor Owen.
I have, through you, Madam Chair, I have a question, but you can overrule it because it may not be.
Does it have a dollar amount in the question? If not, it's not gonna happen.
I'll withdraw the. Thank you.
So the method needs to be, if you don't have a dollar value in your question, chances are this is not the right time to ask that question. That'll be the formula going forward. Okay. Any other?
This one has.
Put a dollar in it and we'll hear it.
Through you, Madam Chair. Is there anything in your budget for, decreasing the number of dead ends that we have in our system? Because, well.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we do have a capital item to basically do a little pilot project and try to replace one of the dead end bleeders, which is continuously on 24 hours a day. And then there's a new unit that basically would be on a timer and would only be activated so that we can maintain chlorine residuals. And we're hoping that we'll be able to reduce, not cancel completely, but to reduce the water waste significantly.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Any other questions from council at this time? Thank you so much for your presentation. It is 7:21. It's been a lot of information. I would like to have us take a 10-minute break. I have the timer on. So we're close to the end, but we're not there yet. So we're gonna have Kim sit for a little longer. 10-minute break, please. Thank you, everybody, for coming back. And we'll get started again with community services. The Director of Community Services, Kim Clockers, to discuss cemetery, childcare, museum, parks and recreation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to council. I hope everyone is still awake, and if not, I will try to make my presentation, my inaugural presentation, short and sweet, informative, okay? So I'm presenting the community services budget for 2025. We have 5 divisions, so separated into parks, facilities, cemetery, culture, and recreation. I just wanted to add in a little information here. So according to the AMO, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, it is the municipality's role to deliver recreation programs that promote healthy living, health equity, and address socioeconomic factors that influence health outcomes. That's exactly what we're doing in the Community Services Department. I know we report on statistics, but I wanted to kind of bring them to light again. Because they are impressive and what our department can accomplish and can do in a year is truly commendable. So we have provided 3,200 hours of direct programming opportunities in 2024 for residents, outliers, and visitors to Kirkland Lake. This is done through the pool, ice surface, fitness areas, and through our seasonal programs. In 2024, we've had 33,900 visits to the pool. That is through recreational swims, swimming lessons, school rentals, etc. And we've had 10,000 visits to our gyms and fitness classes. We have rented out 1,400 hours of ice, 600 hours of pool time, and 100 hours of rented ball fields. So we're very busy. Now we can get to the budget. So you will see here that we are showing a 6% decrease from our 2024 budget. I will speak to each item later on, but cemetery is showing a surplus this year. The reason for that is that we, with the help of the treasurer here, have tapped into the care and maintenance fund, the interest accrued from that fund. We plan to utilize that to offset some of the maintenance and staffing costs at the cemetery. Childcare is a revenue generator for us. We own the building and they pay rent. And the money, the surplus money does go into a reserve. And I do think now would be an opportune time to discuss the one capital item, which is replacement of windows, of 3 windows at the daycare. It was put into the tax levy column, and that was my mistake. It should be coming out of reserves. So that is for the better. We have about, I believe, over $10,000 in reserve. So most of the windows could be funded through that reserve. Library, I will let Cheryl speak to when I'm finished. The museum is showing a 95% decrease in the budget. And that is due to the successful transfer to Top Hat, and with the town no longer operating the museum. In 2026, you'll see 100% reduction. The figure in there is simply to cover the 50% for the WSCS culture roadmap, which will be reported to council in the coming weeks. Parks and Recreation is showing a small increase of 1.7% or $50,000 increase overall. So just for interest sake, if the museum was still operated by the town, there was about an 8% difference by us no longer operating it. We would be looking at a community services budget increase of about 2% versus a decrease of 6%. So rationale for increases in cemetery revenues are very difficult to predict. So we use a 3-year average for our revenues. And again, I did say that we're going to utilize the accrued interest of care maintenance fund, which is approximately $18,000, which will help offset our maintenance cost. The cost to run the cemetery has decreased over the years, lots of efficiencies. We have 1 full-time cemetery foreman who in the off season is part of our facilities team at the community complex. Along with 2 students and a seasonal operator. The goal with the cemetery is simply to break even. We are showing a surplus this year that is predicted, but we don't want to gauge it or gouge, any users, overcharge for plots, burials and things like that. But we also don't want the cemetery to be a burden to taxpayers. So, next slide, please. Some of the challenges for 2025 for the cemetery, trying to find post-secondary students. We struggled with that last year, so you will see in the actuals that our labor costs for 2024 were decreased. So we had our seasonal labor and our full-time staff pick up the extra slack, which banked a lot of hours, but that's why there is the discrepancy in labor. We had a student who left halfway through, and then somebody who just had reduced hours. As all other departments continued pricing increases that we'll just probably see year after year for materials and supplies, gas, diesel, fuel, along with pricing increases for contracted services. So our main contracted service at the cemetery is the inscriptions on the niche doors. So those prices continue to increase as well. And then some aging equipment. So we have 1 riding mower at the cemetery and some, 1 zero-turn and some riding lawnmowers as well. But we do plan to be frugal. So in 2025, our cemetery foreman will be getting trade-in values for some of the aging equipment and put that towards the purchase of a new equipment when the life cycle is up. Next slide. Our upcoming initiatives, continued beautification of the grounds. If anyone has not been to the cemetery, whether you have loved ones there or not, it is an absolutely beautiful park that is maintained very, it's pristine. So we will continue to beautify the grounds there. We also plan on getting a solar powered water fountain, just to add to the serene atmosphere of the cemetery. And then also some long range planning for a new columbarium. We have approximately 190, it could be less, units left on our current columbarium. So that will be an upcoming initiative for this year. Moving on to childcare, again, it's a revenue generator. There are no significant concerns with the building. So except for the windows, which are slated to be 11 of them replaced over the next couple of years. We receive rent, which goes up every year based on the annual CPI. And basically any surplus, so the expenditures are, items like plumbing materials, electrical materials, and also a small portion of our maintenance supervisor's salary goes there. It gets placed into the reserve fund for capital upgrades. The museum, so the transfer has been successful to OPAT, which has been wonderful. The fact that cultural services remain in Kirkland Lake, and right now, 2025, it definitely is a transition year to see what our role is in that new cultural plan and how we plan to move forward. At the time, the museum was slated to close, so now that it's open, we'll see what 2025 brings us and kind of go from there and see what kind of gaps we can fill in. So my department, along with economic development, we do play a role in having cultural services and cultural events, incorporating them into our programming. So we will continue to do that with hopefully with no additional funds out of the budget. So moving on to Parks and Recreation. So a rationale for increases here. So with these 4 figures that you see on the screen, that equates to $107,000 increase, but our overall budget is showing a increase of only $50,000. So we've made great strides in going item by item, ensuring that we have accurate pricing. We are not buying anything discretionary. And the individuals and managers that are responsible for creating these budgets have been doing so for a long time. We are a very well-oiled machine. Most of us having done the budget for 10 years or more. So that is good. The labor costs, there's a redistribution of wages, and that's because the maintenance supervisor, he had a portion of his funds to the museum. So now those funds are back into the Parks and Recreation budget. Increase in all of our materials, chemicals, which we need to have legislated. We actually had the health inspector come to the complex today, and I'm happy to report that everything is well. We are all balanced. So it's great that we continue to invest in our chemicals, cleaning supplies, turf care, so seed, soil, beautification efforts, all add to the increase in cost. And the last point here, the inclusion of a full year allotments in the community safety well-being plan. So $25,000 paid to the Timiskaming Health Unit for that plan. We always try to seek grants to help offset any chance that we can. We have a couple in the hopper right now, and we will gladly report back if and when successful. So some of the challenges include, so in our aquatic center, we have some challenges that we are working through. The biggest one being the roof, which right now is in the hands of the insurance company. So I do hope to have some forward movement on that in 2025. I just want to thank all of our users for their understanding as we tackle some of the challenges there, along with summer students. And we should hopefully receive word whether we're getting the Canada Summer Jobs funding, which we've been successful in getting the past few years, so we'll see about that. Meeting the increased demand for programming, so we had over 50,000 visits to the complex in 2024. 3,200 hours of programming, and we haven't had any increases in staff. So our staff are doing more. They're going beyond their scope, beyond their role to provide the needs of the community. Because recreation needs have changed drastically since COVID. People love to recreate again, which is fantastic. But we need to just continue to kind of go with that trend and meet the demand that's out there. We also are open on some holidays. So we were open on Remembrance Day, we're open on Family Day, which makes sense. It's the facility that families want to go to and enjoy on Family Day. So on some holidays that we're open, we do experience a decrease, like a loss in revenue, because we are paying premiums and things like that. Continue rising costs of materials and supplies. I won't keep reiterating that. We know that's an issue. Aging equipment and facilities. So yes, we have a lot of mowers, but we also maintain 38 acres of green space within Kirkland Lake. So they are highly utilized. Traffic control and parking at the food market. This was on the list last year, and I purposely left it there. We do need to consider accessibility concerns. Right now, there's no accessibility parking, and while the market is utilized by everyone, it's also utilized by people that have mobility impairments. So we have a fantastic temporary solution last year with the curb stops, but something that we'll need to consider is a long-term solution for that. The pool roof warranty issues I've already mentioned, and repairs to our Dectron. So the public may have reached out to counselors with some of their concerns about water temperature, closures and things like that. There is, most of that work has been already done by a contracted company. So that has already been added into the budget. Fingers crossed, there's no other concerns with the Dectron unit. And then also just the co-implementation of the cultural roadmap with existing staff. So we're not going to be adding on additional staff in 2025 to take on a role of culture. We're going to be doing it with existing staff without hopefully getting stretched too thin. Okay, upcoming initiatives. So new and enhanced programming. We are always looking for feedback from the public. In order to meet their needs, offer specialty programming. We're continuing to offer Swim to Survive for additional age groups. We're offering 2 new programs specific to baseball that were fully funded. We're offering PD day camps. There's always something. The world is our oyster, we always say in recreation. There's so much that we can do and we want to do. We have our large scale funding projects. So NOHFC Old Pool retrofit that, just for an update for interest sake for everyone, we will be doing the infill for that with Clearstone as soon as the spring is here and we can access the Clearstone. And then right now we're working on the RFP for the concrete pad so that we can move that forward. We're going into year 3 of our Green and Inclusive Fund. The latest progress from our contractor EXP is that they are pretty much done the design phase and equipment selection. RFP for construction will go out in May and the construction will start in October, which is very exciting. We're also going to undertake some food security initiatives. So one being Market Bucks. We're going to start this as a pilot project with a couple of key partners, allowing for people who may not be able to shop at the food market or don't have the disposable funds to do so, the ability to shop at the market. So that will be a wonderful initiative that we're very excited to partake in. And also the community oven, which volunteers have kind of stepped forward to take that on as well, which is very exciting. As always, we continue to investigate funding opportunities Right now, the one that we are specifically looking for is to address accessibility playground options. Hopefully at Queen Elizabeth Playground, so we just need to find the right funding pot. And we have a plan in mind, so fingers crossed that the province or federal government comes through with some funding that we're eligible for. And then technology advances within our department to be eco-friendly and paperless. Next slide, that's it. Questions? Comments?
Counselor Jenkins.
Finance chair, I'll get my hand slapped, but that's okay. Thank you for your enthusiasm. That's all. Thank you.
No dollar amount, yeah.
So now.
She asked for.
I should now ask you $5. So I think it needed to be said.
Thank you.
Counselor Owen.
For you, finance chair, it does have a dollar value. I have no idea what it is, so. Are you working in consultation with the Works Department concerning the sidewalk and parking situation? And I'm glad you brought up accessibility as something that I'll probably need in a few years, but something I hadn't thought. So this is like a multi-department venture.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So we've been in talks with Roads Department, Public Works, and also Development Services for the accessibility portion. Early stages, but we are trying to seek a solution. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
4.3, 2025 budget presentation, Tech Centennial Public Library, Cheryl LeBrenier, Library Chief Executive Officer and Head Librarian. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor, Madam Chair, Council, thank you for having me. So if you look at the first page, there's not a lot of change from last year. I tried to keep the budget as minimal as possible. Main change is our labor and relations. So that's basically our largest increase for the budget. Our donations remain the same, but I do anticipate that will increase because the last couple of years, one with COVID and last year with the Children's Department not open, we did not run our TD Summer Reading Program. And this year we will be, and we do seek donations from organizations, and we have been quite successful in the past. So I'm anticipating donations with regards to that. So yeah, that will increase. Next slide.
Sorry. The chair was asking me a question. I was distracted.
So the rationale for increases, it's increased part-time staff due to the cost of living allowance. And most staff members did move up a step on the pay grid. And of course, we do hire students, and the minimum wage did increase last year, and it will increase again this October. So I'm trying to balance that. And of course, I have nothing I can do about the cost of the rise in insurance or utilities. However, I did try to decrease my utilities because of previous years I've always budgeted more. And so this year I thought, well, haven't had to use it, so hopefully I won't have to this year, so I did decrease it a little bit. Next slide. So some of our challenges, again, maintaining the quality of our collection as the cost of resources continue to rise. With regard to our budget, it has not increased in over 20 years. We get a $10,000 budget from the municipality, and the rest comes from our trust fund that we're so grateful for. However, we have tried to find, or we have found different avenues to purchase books. And some of them are okay. We try not to purchase too many soft covered books because they don't last as long. But when it comes to the children's department, we don't mind purchasing soft cover. Professional development is another challenge for us, because going out of town to conferences is quite high. They usually offer the one in Toronto, it's the OLA. And you gotta take a flight and motel rooms and stuff, so we try not to do that anymore. However, it was a great tool for professional development. So now I'm trying to utilize more online avenues. We do have Learn HQ, which is sponsored through Ontario Library Services. They do offer courses or webinars on a lot of library pertaining topics. Offering new programs both in library and in the community. That was a challenge, but now that I've hired a new part-time library clerk program and community a program and person, she is phenomenal. So programs have been really, really good. So I think having her on board was the right call. And offering more digital resources. At the moment, because of the cost, we don't offer any other than Libby for our patrons. So it's the only resource that we can offer right now because the costs are just so high. So we are hoping that Federation of Ontario Public Library will reach the minister and hopefully they will support libraries. That is one of their goals, is to help libraries able to fund these resources. Some of our upcoming initiatives, the completion of the Children's Department Refresh project. Now that we've been open for a couple of months, we have realized that we are lacking in certain areas, especially shelving. We need more shelving. So that's in the works. We needed storage cupboards in our create room, so those have finally been installed. So it's coming along. Continued work on our library's outdoor garden space. Last year we did the initial setup and it's coming along beautifully. So it'll be a really nice space where people can go and just enjoy, sit and relax or plant. Where they have an option to plant and take care of the garden. We actually also started a seed library. So if anybody's interested in gardening, they can come get some seeds, and then at the end of the season, they collect the seeds from their flowers or whatnot, and so it's just an exchange program. So that's really great. We would like to increase our library things collection. Right now, we offer all kinds of things like binoculars, if you want to go bird sighting. We have sea pens, we have blood pressure kits, yoga kits, we're getting there. So, but we'd like to increase our collection. And we're also developing new fundraising initiatives. So that's in the works. I think that's it. So any questions? Questions from the council? Okay. I like this. It was a great presentation. Good, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
I need a mover recommendation that council receive all of 2025 budget presentations for information purposes. I have a mover. Councilor Shaba, seconded by Councilor Owens. All in favor?
Rick Owen.
Oh, Rick Owen.
Thank you.
All in favor? None opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Finance Chair. You did absolutely fabulous. So, moving on. Item number 5, confirmation bylaw, 5.1, bylaw number 25-012, moved by Councilor Ranger, seconded by Councilor Owens.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read, numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and municipal clerk, and a seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. Bylaw number 2512, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council at its special meeting held Thursday, March 6, 2025.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. And a mover for adjournment. Councilor Owen. Thank you, one and all. Fabulous night.